quiet suburban town of Maplewood, where white picket fences lined the streets and children played freely, a chilling mystery began to unravel. For years, Maplewood had been the epitome of tranquility, until the shadows began to whisper. It started with a disappearance. Sarah Jennings, a bright and cheerful high school senior, vanished one crisp autumn evening. She had been walking home from her part-time job at the local diner. Her parents reported her missing the next morning when her bed remained untouched. The only clue was her cell phone, found discarded near the edge of Blackwood Forest, a dense and eerie woodland on the town's outskirts. Detective Jack Callahan, a grizzled investigator with 20 years on the force, was assigned to the case. Jack had seen it all: gruesome murders, cold-blooded betrayals, but something about this case felt different. As he stood at the edge of Blackwood Forest, the wind howling through the trees, he felt a shiver crawl down his spine. Sarah's friends described her as responsible and cautious. She wasn't the type to wander into the woods at night, especially not alone. Jack's gut told him there was more to this story than met the eye. The investigation took a dark turn when another teen, Lucas Parker, went missing 2 weeks later. Lucas had been jogging through Blackwood Forest at dusk. His parents found his abandoned headphones near the same area where Sarah's phone had been discovered. The town was gripped with fear. Parents forbade their children from going out after dark, and the once bustling streets emptied by sundown. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some blamed a wild animal, others whispered about a ghostly figure haunting the woods. But Jack dismissed the supernatural theories. To him, there was always a logical explanation, even in the most chilling cases. One evening, Jack received an anonymous tip. The caller's voice was distorted, but their message was clear. Check the old cabin in Blackwood Forest. The cabin was a relic from the 1800s, abandoned and decaying. It was a place teenagers dared each other to visit on Halloween, but no one lingered for long. Armed with his flashlight and pistol, Jack ventured into the woods. The cabin stood in a small clearing, its windows shattered and doors slightly ajar. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, and Jack's footsteps echoed eerily as he approached. Inside, the cabin was a ruin. Dust blanketed the floor, and the smell of movement. But in the corner of the main room, Jack found something that made his blood run cold: a collection of photographs pinned to the wall. They were of Sarah and Lucas, taken candidly, as if someone had been following them. Beneath the photos was a crude map of Blackwood Forest with several locations circled. One of the marked spots was less than a mile from the cabin. Jack decided to investigate further, despite the growing unease gnawing at him. The circled spot turned out to be a small underground bunker, concealed by fallen leaves and overgrown vegetation. Jack pried open the rusted hatch and descended into the darkness. The bunker was a single room, its walls covered in more photographs and handwritten notes. One note caught Jack's attention. They hear the whispers. They know the secrets. They must be silenced. A faint sound broke the silence, a muffled cry. Jack followed the noise to a locked steel door at the back of the bunker. With a few hard kicks, the door gave way, revealing a dimly lit cell. Inside, huddled and trembling, were Sarah and Lucas. "Detective!" Sarah gasped, tears streaming down her face. "He's coming back! We have to get out of here!" Jack quickly freed the teens and led them out of the bunker. As they emerged into the night, the sound of approaching footsteps froze them in place. A man stepped into view, his face obscured by a hood. In his hand, he held a hunting knife that gleamed in the moonlight. "Stay back," Jack commanded, aiming his pistol. The man hesitated, his head tilting as if contemplating his next move. Then, without warning, he lunged at Jack. A gunshot echoed through the forest, and the man collapsed to the ground, clutching his shoulder. Jack restrained the injured man and called for backup. The man was identified as Daniel Grayson, a reclusive former resident of Maplewood with a history of mental illness. He had been obsessed with the idea that the forest held dark secrets and believed the teens had uncovered something they shouldn't have. With Daniel in custody, the town of Maplewood slowly began to heal. Sarah and Lucas recovered from their ordeal, though the trauma lingered. Jack was hailed as a hero, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the case wasn't entirely closed. Months later, as Jack reviewed the evidence, he noticed something unsettling. Among the photos in the cabin was an image of a young boy taken decades ago. The boy bore an uncanny resemblance to a missing persons case from Jack's early career, a case that had never been solved. And in the corner of the photograph was a shadowy figure watching from the trees. Jack stared at the photo, his unease growing. Perhaps some secrets were never meant to be uncovered.